Going on, Big Blue Nation and sports fans everywhere, and welcome back to the BBN Report, where we talk about all things college football and basketball. And today, as you can tell by the title of this video, just kind of wanted to give my thoughts on the current state of the Kentucky basketball season, what I think about this team, and what I think they need to what they need to do going forward to be a little bit better. And I actually decided to do a little bit of a different kind of setup for this video here. Figured I'd give you guys a different background and do this from the mask room. But so far, I've been for the most part pretty impressed, and I also want to talk about last night's game as well, by the way. But for the most part, I've actually been pretty impressed for the most part with Kentucky this year. I think for the most part they've played really well. Now, granted, I think they actually played really bad last night for the most part. They kind of looked like they didn't want to be there, but we'll talk about that here in a minute. But for the most part, I think that they've played really well. I think they're kind of losing interest in some of these cupcake games they've been playing, which is probably good considering that they have Notre Dame coming up this weekend. But last night, like so many previous times before this season, Kentucky started off really slow once again, which kind of surprised me because it was either the first or the second possession of the game for Kentucky. They ran a high-low ball screen for Ty Washington, in which he got right to the basket. And I thought it was a really good play. I'd like to see Kentucky run more often, by the way. But I thought it was a really good play, and like I said, it got Ty right to the basket. And I thought Kentucky was really going to have a really fast start to yesterday's game. And then, of course, naturally, they end up finding themselves down, was it 2-7 or something like that, 4-9. Found themselves down in a hole pretty early, but obviously they fought back and won. But for the most part, I just didn't think that they played very good in that game. Now, one of the things I was impressed with, I actually thought that Kentucky ran their offense arguably better than they have all season long. They just didn't hit shots last night. That's what kind of was why the game was, 12 points or something like that. At the end, the final score was 12 points or something like that. But for the most part, I actually thought Kentucky ran their offense really well. They just didn't knock down shots, and I definitely want to say that, despite picking up the foul trouble, Ty and Oscar had really good games last night for Kentucky. And, what about Kellen Grady last night was huge for Kentucky. Now, granted, I know all of his points came in the first half, but those points came in a time where nobody could hit a shot for Kentucky. So that was actually huge, and I think that was a very good sign of Grady's breaking out of the slump that he's been in from the three-point line. One thing I think we could definitely say now more than ever is how important Ty and Oscar are to this team. Whenever Oscar is just a flat-out game changer, and the team just doesn't look the same when he's not on the court. I'd actually be very interested in his plus-minus. If somebody in his if I could talk. Somebody that's watching this video, if you actually know Oscar's plus-minus stat, you can drop it in the comments below. I'd actually be very interested to know what that is. Because his plus-minus stat has to be off the charts. Because this team is completely different when Oscar's off the floor. And same with Ty. When Ty is in my opinion, is a basket getter and a guy who can go and get a bucket for Kentucky when Kentucky needs somebody to go get a bucket. I think they have a couple of guys like that. I think Kellen Grady is another one like that. If you run a play for him, some sort of pick-and-pop play, or something that gets him open, I think Kellen Grady could be that guy as well. Same with Davion Mintz. I think Davion Mintz is another guy for Kentucky that can be a go and get a basket type of guy. We saw that last year with Davion Mintz, and he was starting for the Cats last year. He was able to just go and get a bucket, and if Davion starts hitting a three ball pretty consistently again, I think this offense could open up a whole another level of scoring, especially with Kellen Grady, who's an elite shooter himself. I mean, we know he scored 2,000 points at Davidson. So if he can get it going again from the three-point line, same with Davion Mintz, this team can be very scary going forward. Now, how do I want to put this? Figured out how I want to put this. Oscar and Ty might be the two most important pieces for Kentucky this year if they want to have success, especially late come March. Severe Wheeler, Ty Washington, and Oscar Tshiebwe have got to play 30 minutes a game for Kentucky if they want to win games. And I hate to say this, but if Oscar picks up foul trouble when we start playing better teams like Notre Dame this weekend, Ohio State, down the road in conference play. If Oscar's picking up foul trouble and he's not playing 30 minutes, I don't know if anybody else on Kentucky can pick up that kind of slack. He's just too important to the team, and he really needs to work on not picking up silly over the back fouls. He picked up 2 of those last night, ended up sitting the rest of the first half. He's just too important to this team. Same with Ty. Those guys, like I said, and Wheeler, they need to play 30 minutes for Kentucky to be successful. Those 3 guys is what's going to carry Kentucky not only through the rest of the regular season, but in March. And I definitely think that those guys are definitely going to be some guys that could bring home a national championship come March. One thing I'm really worried about and concerned about going forward is who is Kentucky really going to put in the post? Like, for instance, when we play Ohio State, who is going to get on their big guy? And I'm sitting here drawing a blank on his name. But who's going to get on him and try and make a bucket? Because I just don't know if we have that guy outside of Oscar who he's more of a back-to-the-back guy. But, we've been trying to put Toppin down in the post. It's something I think we saw a little bit last night. And I just don't think Jacob Toppin is that guy. And Jacob Toppin is a guy that I am huge on. I'm a big Jacob Toppin fan. But I just don't know if he is that guy that we're going to put into the post and expect to get a bucket. He's definitely an energy guy. And the way he kind of played last night, he had, 4 blocks, something like that, rebounds. That's an effort guy who can then sprint, be able to sprint the floor in transition and get dunks and just get easy baskets like that. That's the kind of player that Toppin is. And, of course, he's going to be able to do some things in the half court and you run certain sets for him. But for the most part, I just don't think he's like in the post guy. I don't really trust Lance Ware in the post. He seems like he gets bullied around a little bit. So I just don't know who exactly we're going to put down there. That's one concern I do have going forward, especially in games that Oscar picks up a couple of fouls in the first half. Where does Kentucky go to get post points? Like I said, I don't think Toppin is that guy. I don't think Ware is that guy. But I do think potentially Collins could maybe be that guy. He's very, let's say. I think he's actually pretty skilled for the most part. I'd like to maybe see him do a little bit more. Get a few more minutes. Actually, I just drew a blank on exactly where I was going to go with that. Now, obviously, the natural answer there is Keon Brooks, who I definitely want to see stop shooting threes for the love of God. Now, I don't think he took any last night, but it's just not his shot. I mean, I don't mind him taking one here or there after he's made, 3, 4, 5 twos. Maybe shoot a 3, expand it a little bit. But for the most part, I do think that Keon Brooks can be that guy. He's definitely improved. This is his best stretch. He knows 8 games into the season so far. I think this is his best 8-game stretch he's had as a Wildcat. And if you went back to my preview video for the Duke game, and I even think I've said this a couple of times since on this channel, if Kentucky wants to have a deep run in March, not only get the Wheeler, Ty, and Oscar, like I said earlier, but Keon Brooks was going to be the ultimate key to this team if they wanted to win a national championship come March. He's got to have his best season as a Kentucky Wildcat. And so far, I think Keon, for the most part, is doing that. Now, I know he missed a couple, before anybody comments and says, oh, well, he missed 2 games or whatever when he was sick. That is true. But before the sickness, he was playing really well, and I think he's actually played pretty well since. So I do think that Keon can be that guy to go to when Oscar's in foul trouble. But, I'm sorry, guys. I just drew another blank again. I was going to say something else about Keon, and then I completely ended up blanking, and right before I was getting ready to say the sentence. I'm not sure about you guys, but in his limited playing time this season, I've actually been really impressed with that Hopkins, who wears 23, I believe. I've actually been really impressed in the times that he's actually gotten to play, and I would actually like to see him play a little bit more. But going forward, obviously Cal is going to have to start trimming his rotation down. And personally, I do think that's probably a good idea. I think we're starting to figure out a little bit of who needs to play, who's a year away from playing. But I do think going forward, you're obviously going to have Wheeler start, Ty start, and Oscar start, and Keon start. Now, this is kind of that fifth spot there is definitely up for grabs, in my opinion. I personally think that should be going to Kellen Grady. I would actually like to see a 3-guard set, which I know Cal doesn't like. But I think that Cal needs to play his 5 best players. I think those 5 players right there give Kentucky its best chance to win ball games as a starting 5. But then I'd like to see Mintz, Toppin. I wouldn't, speaking of which, I actually wouldn't mind seeing Toppin in the starting lineup at the 3. I think that'd definitely be something interesting. I wouldn't be shocked to see have going forward. But going forward, having Mintz, Allen, and Toppin coming off the bench. With foul trouble, having Ware come in. Maybe even Collins. But for the most part, we're going to start to see the rotations trimmed down a little bit. And I think it's probably a good idea going forward. But that being said, I already know if somebody's watching, for some reason, if somebody's watching this far, I don't know why you would. And like looking at me for almost 11 and a half minutes. Somebody's going to notice I didn't say Allen. I'm sorry, guys. I just don't think Dante Allen is that good. But, he's more of a defensive liability. His scoring ability is off the charts, obviously. But he's just a defensive liability when he's on the court. But whenever he gets in there, if he does hit his first... You see, it always seems like with Allen, if he hits his first shot, his first 2 shots, then he just takes off from there and he gets hot. If he misses his first couple shots, you might as well take him out of the ball game and not put him back in because it definitely affects his psyche. I think it affects his confidence to shoot going forward. I also think it affects his defense. He does seem to play a little bit better defense when he does hit shots. Kind of like an outfielder in baseball. It seems like whenever a power hitting right fielder in baseball goes through a slump at the plate and they normally play pretty good right field and defense, their defense starts to suffer a little bit until they get hot at the plate again. That's kind of how Dante Allen is, and that's one of the analogies I've continuously used with him. So, but like I said, I just think he's a defensive liability, and that's the reason why he doesn't get the playing time that he gets. Now, he probably would play a lot of minutes at another school, like, for instance, who we played last night, Southern. He'd probably get a lot of minutes down there, or some other teams that really love to shoot the 3 ball. We all know Cal's not a big 3 enthusiast, and personally, I'm not really that much of a 3-ball enthusiast myself. But I do think Cal's going to have quite a hard time narrowing this rotation down because this team is honestly stacked. And I wouldn't be surprised to see him even wait to start dwindling the rotation down. Because like I said, in my opinion, I think this team is honestly stacked. When this team clicks a little bit more, I think you're really going to see this team take off. And you're going to see one of the arguably better teams of the Cal era. When this team starts clicking on offense and starts hitting on all cylinders on offense, this team has the capability to really blow a lot of teams out in the country. A lot of good teams, in fact. Playing in the SEC this year, which is an absolutely loaded conference. Speaking of which, who enjoyed Tennessee getting beat last night? This guy enjoyed Tennessee getting beat last night. But playing in such a deep conference, they're going to need to be able to have this offensive firepower. It's a good thing that Kentucky does have this, but when they click, I think this team can honestly be scary good, and you guys can hold me to that. But I've sat around here and I've rambled on about nonsense for 14 minutes now. So I'll go ahead and I'll let you guys go. So if you agree with anything I said, let me know down below in the comments. Let me know if you think I'm crazy. Go ahead and tell me what you think so far of this Kentucky basketball team so far this season. And I'll go ahead and I'll catch you guys in the next one.